It's time for another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swenson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. We have 10 guests and 7 interviews on this program, so we'll get right to it. All of it's going to be focusing on young people doing successful things. A little bit of toy department, and we'll also give credit to the talented fine arts young people at Decorah High School and Waukon High School that will show off their talents this weekend. We'll talk to MFL MarMac football coach Dan Anderson. His Bulldogs are in the semifinals for the first time in school history. They take on Underwood Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock at the Unidome in Cedar Falls. For the second straight year, the Fillmore Central Falcon football team is at the state tournament. They will take on Springfield at Jordan Friday night at 5:30. Caledonia Warriors tonight will take on Jackson County Central at 7 o'clock at Rochester Mayo, a game you can hear on 103.5 KNEI. We'll talk to Carl Fruechte, the head coach of the Caledonia Warriors, but that's not the only Warriors that will be in action today. The Caledonia Warrior volleyball team is going to be up at the XL Energy Center in St. Paul. They will open up first-round play at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Scott Koepke will discuss the Warrior season to this point. The Mabel-Canton Cougars are off to the state volleyball tournament for the second straight year. We'll talk about their season with Mabel-Canton coach Lonnie Morken. Also, the Decorah High School musical going to be starting tonight. SpongeBob the Musical. We'll talk to a couple of the performers in the musical, Libby, Phillips, and Gabe Heiner. But we'll kick off with the Waukon High School musical. That will begin tonight as well. Little Shop of Horrors. We'll talk to Waukon vocal music director Sarah Bieber and also Peake, Gabe Goettl, and Ryan Kolsrud. They will all be our guests this morning on Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. The Waukon High School musical Little Shop of Horrors will be taking place this weekend, and for people very key in the production of that event will join us right now, Sarah Bieber, the vocal music instructor, and also the musical director at Waukon High School, along with performers Peake, Gabe Goettl, and Ryan Kolsrud. Sarah, we'll start with you. When it comes to deciding what musical to perform in the fall, how do you determine that?
We actually determine it in the spring. We get a poll from the students to see what kids are interested in lead roles, supporting roles, and chorus roles. And then we have a pretty good idea of what numbers we're going to have and their interest levels. They're very vocal about what musicals they want to do and what musicals they don't want to do. And so we kind of start gathering that information last spring, and they've already started telling me what musicals they want to do for next year. So I think I've got a pretty good handle of what kids are going to be involved and how many students we've got. And then from there, we choose a show that meets their needs.
All right. We'll go with you, Molly. What about this production made it one that you guys wanted to do?
For me personally, I think it was just a very different dynamic from what we did last year. I had a bit of a more smaller, intimate cast, which was kind of appealing after last year was quite a large cast. There's a lot of different elements in it that I've never dealt with before, like puppeteering and just different elements like that I think make it a really, really fun show.
Gabe, what's been fun about rehearsals and putting this show together?
Well, as always, I really enjoy the community that we have in our cast. And it's just so fun to put on a show with some of your best friends. And it's just such a fun show as is. And a lot of us knew the show before we even chose it. So it's fun to be in something that we actually know and really enjoy.
And Ryan, what's made this a fun experience for you to this point?
I think what's made it a really fun experience is, like Gabe said, just being in a show with some of your best friends and really having that bonding time and being able to laugh and have fun. And it's just the community aspect of it and just being able to, like I said, have fun and really put on a show.
Sarah, how long have you guys been working at this? Obviously, this decision was made to put on Little Shop of Horrors in the spring, but as for this production itself, how long have you guys been working at this?
We started the first day of school by
Oh.
announcing audition packets, audition information, and letting the kids know exactly what roles and what opportunities the musical has. And then we announce it to the students in our choir. We announce it to the whole school. It's very much a whole school show. There's students that are in choir, there's students that are in band, there's students that are in neither that are doing a lot of different things in the show, whether it's tech crew, stage crew, sound and light, the puppets, our puppeteer, as you can see back here, Audrey too, is our giant plant. She is 8 feet long and 4 feet wide.
Wow.
So that takes about 3 people to maneuver and get that rolling, but there's just a lot of kids involved, and it's just been a really good experience for anybody that wants to be in theater.
Molly, what role will you be playing?
I will be portraying Audrey. She's the meek little flower shop worker and kind of a ditzy blonde character. She's a lot of fun.
Gabe, what's your role?
I will be playing Seymour Krelborn. He is the botanical botanist who discovered Audrey too. And he's a clumsy little guy. He's kind of silly and he's not very smart. So it's very fun.
And Ryan, what's your role coming up this weekend?
So my role is Orange Scarvello, who is a dentist and also Audrey's abusive boyfriend.
He's not a very nice man.
Yeah, I'm not one of the heroes in the story, definitely.
He's
All right.
definitely
But very fun character to play, and I have a lot of fun with it.
And we'll keep it with the students here. Molly, I guess I'll ask Molly, Gabe, and Ryan all the same question here. Molly, what's the most rewarding part about being in a production like this and multiple productions throughout your high school days?
It's really just seeing the end results as it comes together, like in this final week of production, just seeing everything and everyone truly come together to put on a show. And then for me, it's taking that bow at the end of the show and just seeing the audience and seeing how and getting like feedback from them after the show and seeing how much they enjoyed it. And just it's very rewarding to be able to do something that people really enjoy to watch.
Gabe, same question to you.
For me, it's similar to Molly, seeing everything come together toward the end. For example, when we started practices, we didn't have any puppets yet because we rented them out. But the first day that we got those puppets in, I stopped and thought, this is really coming together to be like a really good show. It was such an exciting day.
And Ryan, same question for you.
So yeah, like Molly and Gabe, I'm not too original. It's a lot. Just seeing it all come together. What really, like Gabe said, what really shows me when I'm like, wow, this thing is really coming together is the first time I'm really on set and we have the set built. That's pretty, I would say, I don't know if magical is the right word, but it's just cool to see like, this is what it's going to look like. And that's when it really changes from just a student thing and just kind of just messing around and having fun to an actual musical for me.
And I'll ask the similar question to you, sir. I know you've put on a lot of these over the years. How rewarding is just the process of putting everything together?
I don't even have words. Half the time, I'm usually in the sound and light booth, making sure everything is holding together on the first night of the show, and then the tears come because you put all your blood, sweat, and tears and everything else into the show, and then to see the kids do it on their own is the best part because at that point they don't need you. And that's what the whole goal is as a teacher, is to be able to teach them how to do it themselves. And so by the time that they're able to do it on their own, it just warms your heart because that's what our job is as educators, is to get them to shine on stage and to get them to bring out things in themselves that they didn't know they had. And then they get to share that talent and share that with the community.
And when will these shows be put on? And what is the schedule and how can people purchase tickets?
This is production week. So we have a show this Thursday is our opening night, November 9th. We also have a show Friday, November 10th and Saturday, November 11th. They are all at 7:00 p.m. in the Waukon High School auditorium. And you can purchase tickets. There's a lot of links floating around on Facebook, but if you look it up on Waukon Musical at Ludus, Ludus, just Google search Ludus and then Waukon Musical, and the link will pop right up. Otherwise, you can come to the show that night. The doors open at 6:00. They'll open up an hour before the show, and you can purchase tickets right here at the door as well.
All right. Well, Molly, Gabe, and Ryan will ask you one final question here. I'll give you all about a 30-second commercial to invite people this weekend. Molly, you're up first.
It's a really exciting show full of lots of different fun and different elements that you don't see in every stage production. So I highly, highly recommend that everyone stops out to see it.
Gabe, go.
Like Molly said, it's a very exciting show. There's a lot of really fun and different and interesting characters to see.
It's very dramatic.
Yes, there's so many dance numbers, so many good songs, and it's a really good show to watch because it's just so fun and interesting and different.
And last but not least, Ryan.
It's fun. It's funny. It's dramatic. It can be a little scary. It's just going to be a great show. It's going to be a great time.
It has just about every element of theater that you could ask. There's love, there's death, there's mystery, there's comedy. And the one thing that the assistant director, Sarah Hagen, and I have commented on constantly, we both were in the show. I was in it as a senior in 2007, and Sarah Hagen was also in it in the 90s. And the music, you don't get sick of it. The music is so much fun to do, and it just keeps coming back. We were set painting yesterday and we were sitting there, and next thing you know, the music is in our head and you just don't get rid of it. But it's not a bad thing. It's just a really, really catchy musical, and it's fun for all ages. And obviously we've got these beautiful puppets back here too, which is a big aspect of the show that not a lot of other shows have as well. So you get to see the plant come to life from a tiny puppet to a bigger puppet to a bigger puppet to this giant puppet that you see behind us that's 8 feet long.
All right. Well, we appreciate every one of you taking some time to preview the show this weekend. Enjoy all that work coming to fruition this weekend, and best of luck with your performances of Little Shop of Horrors Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Waukon High School Musical, 7:00 Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Little Shop of Horrors. Be there. This weekend, the Decorah High School Drama Department going to be putting on SpongeBob the Musical, and a couple of folks involved in the show, Libby, Phillips, and Gabe Heiner, joining us to tell us about the show. And Libby, tell us how long have you guys been working on this show and getting ready for the ultimate production this weekend?
Yeah, so it all goes back to last year when it was announced. Then we kind of started listening to the soundtrack and just kind of getting to know the show itself. And then back in August, we had our first round of auditions, and that was kind of the start of it. And then the cast list came out about in August, probably this 2 days after school started. And then from there, we kind of just started jumping right in with the scenes and working on the set and just kind of getting it all pieced together. So it's been a long process.
And Gabe, how do you guys go about determining what production you will put on in the fall?
So that's not actually the student's choice. It's the director's. So we have KU, KT, Mr. Roush, and Mr. Hadley. They're going to have a little meeting, and probably multiple meetings actually, where they decide what they think will be the best production to put on in the fall. And then they announce that to us, and then we decide to audition for it.
And Libby, talk about you mentioned the process. How rewarding is it to put all this work in and see it all come to fruition this weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of like this weekend we did the first full run through of it, and kind of going into it, we're like, oh man, this could go one of two ways, and it's great to get all that stress kind of just relieving, finally seeing it the way we know it can be, the way we've worked so hard for it to be. And I'm really excited to get it in front of an audience because I know they're gonna love it as much as we do.
Yeah.
And same question to you, Gabe. How rewarding is it to put the work in and see it all come to fruition here this weekend?
Yeah, it's really great to just see how well everything meshes together. And I believe that's another thing that that we really need to make sure to mention is that we really got to thank our stage crew. They've really been an amazing part of this. They do all the behind the scenes work. We have so many things that would be impossible without them.
This show is huge on like the tech aspect of it that really we as Decorah High School have never dealt with before. And it's like, yeah, sure, we're the actors, we're the people they're going to be seeing on stage, but there's so much happening behind the scenes that just the production would not be possible without.
How many overall folks are involved from the folks that you see on stage to those folks behind the scenes that are making things happen?
I think it's a little under 70. So
wow.
65 to 70 kids in total. All the stage crew is completely student led. And then there's some student led choreography happening this year and just really a lot of student leadership going on to make this production possible.
Yeah. There's a lot of students down in the pit as well.
Mm-hmm.
A few adult people to kind of help out on some parts, but it's mainly students down there.
Yep, down in the orchestra.
And SpongeBob the Musical. I think most people out there are familiar with the concept of SpongeBob. How do you take what is a popular cartoon and turning into a production like this without giving away too many spoilers, of course?
Yeah, I think it being a kids shows kind of do a good job at having like a hidden message and a hidden meaning. And I think that the hidden meaning of this show is really family and community and coming together as one when there is an issue and putting aside all differences and being like, hey, let's get this problem fixed because there's no other way to do it.
And Gabe, is that kind of the assessment that you have just getting ready for the show as well?
Yep, that's pretty much exactly what I'm feeling the same.
And what roles will you folks be playing here this weekend?
Yeah, I'm SpongeBob, hence the bleached hair here.
Yeah, and I'll be playing Squidward. I don't have my middle part in currently because I don't normally walk around school like that, but you'll see me up on stage with one.
I'll give you a couple of days and you guys will be ready to go on that end of things. Give us the schedule of the performances this weekend, Libby.
Yep, we have our first show this Thursday at 7 o'clock, I believe. And then there will be another one on Friday at the same time. And then Saturday, we have something a little extra special this year. The National Honor Society has put together a really cool, fun kids event. So all the kids from the community who enjoyed the show will be able to come and meet the characters, and they'll be able to eat a nice Krabby Patty lunch there as well. And then the matinee show will follow shortly after that at 2. And then we have another show to close it off on Saturday at around 7.
Saturday will be a very busy day for everybody involved in the show with an event and 2 performances.
And how can folks get tickets to the show? How are they available at the door? Can you purchase them in advance? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there will be some will call tickets up at the box office. So if you want to show up, but if you want to ensure that you get good seats or for times that work best for you, there are posters hanging up all around the town. Go into your local businesses. There should be QR codes you can scan there that'll take you to the website where you can order some tickets.
And I also believe there was an email sent out to all the families in Decorah Community School District. Otherwise, you can just look up the Decorah Community School District website, and you should be able to find the tickets somewhere on there as well.
All right, Libby, I'll give you one final chance, and I'll give Gabe the same opportunity. Give us the 30-second commercial on why folks should go see SpongeBob the Musical this weekend.
Yeah, it's a great way to just promote the music boosters in our community. I mean, it's going to be a great show. You're going to go home feeling better than you came in. You're going to laugh. You're going to have fun. It's going to be a great time.
Gabe, commercial,
yeah,
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, come see SpongeBob the Musical. You'll have highs and lows, ups and downs, but you'll laugh a lot no matter what. You'll feel a great sense of community, and I'm excited to kind of talk with the cast afterward and interact. That's always one of my favorite
There
parts.
might also be some bubbles involved, so you can never go wrong with some bubbles. So.
Well, my niece and nephew who are 4 and 1 always tell me that, and they've never led me astray on that end of things. But Libby and Gabe, we appreciate you taking the time. Congrats for all the work that you're putting in and seeing it all come to fruition this weekend. Enjoy the performances, and thanks to all the Decorah High School music students and drama students and the entertainment they provide our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Libby, Phillips, and Gabe Heiner, they're a part of the SpongeBob the Musical taking place Thursday, Friday, and 2 shows on Saturday at the Decorah High School Auditorium. The second straight season, the Mabel-Canton Cougar volleyball team is heading back to the XL Energy Center in St. Paul as they have qualified for the state tournament once again. And here to preview the state tournament, head coach Lonnie Morken. And coach, you got there last year and you return again this year. What has been similar between those two teams? Are there any differences between the two teams?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Darren. We're super excited and proud to be representing the school and the communities in Mabel-Canton and southeastern Minnesota, Section 1. And so similarities starting off, I guess you could say last year we had 10 kids at the state tournament, 2 were seniors, all the rest were freshmen and sophomores. So we were relatively young last year with no juniors. And so returning, we had 8 kids that were, had state tournament experience. And so that's the first place to start. We graduated Sophia Morken, who was an outside hitter who's playing college volleyball at St. Ben's right now. And then Mackenzie Kelly was our libero. And so first and foremost, we had to kind of figure out how to fill in those 2 positions. And sophomore Tyler Wentold is kind of playing the outside hitter position that Sophie had last year. And junior Lydia Votlin switched from a defensive specialist to libero and is playing that spot. But everybody else is kind of the same, right? Sahara Morken is setting. Our right side is Hope Erickson. We'll talk about her later. She missed the whole regular season except the last 2 games with a broken wrist. And our 2 middle hitters are Kimberly Soini and Sejal Slafter. And then Keeling Olson was our other outside hitter. And then they're joined in the rotation with Ava Jacobson as one of our DSs. And so there was a lot of similarities just because of the people, but differences, right? Every single season, you have adversity to overcome. And I know somebody that doesn't know anything about Mabel-Canton volleyball would look at our record and say, oh yeah, 35-1, you didn't have any adversity. How can you go 35-1 and have any adversity? Well, first week of practice, Hope Erickson at a scrimmage breaks her wrist. And so she's out all season. And the initial prognosis was done, right? And there was a lot of tears shed by her and her mom and me and, some of the girls and stuff. And so we had a freshman, Ella Halverson, step in who had only played middle growing up. And playing right side in volleyball is probably the most challenging position because you've really got to be good at everything. And if you're not a lefty, it's a really hard, unnatural swing to hit. And we kind of were teaching Ella on the fly, and she came up with some humongous kills and blocks. And, we had a great Class A showcase where we beat Mayor Lutheran and we beat Cleveland and we beat New Life Academy and we beat McRae and we lost in the championship to Minnesota, but Ella was our right side. We beat a phenomenal Spring Grove team twice in the regular season with Ella. And, we ran the table with Ella as our right side. And so she provided something that we don't have a lot of in Mabel, and that's a little bit of size. She's only about 5'8", but she jumps really well. And so when we got Hope back, then, we kind of moved her back into her position. But we had that adversity, and then just anytime you deal with, we feel like we always have expectations, and we don't talk about pressure at Mabel-Canton because pressure is a privilege, and I try and get our kids to embrace being the team that a lot of times has a target on the back because we've been pretty successful for all these years. But we started out as preseason number 2 in the state, right, Darren? And only 2 other times have we ever been ranked preseason that high. And so that right there is, a major bullseye, a major target, right? And so, and we held that position all year. We never wavered from the number 2 spot. We played some really, really good teams. We beat some teams ranked in the state, and we never left the number 2 spot. And so it's a little different perspective also. Last year, we were kind of the underdog a little bit, right? We beat an unbelievable Kenyawanna team in 5 in the section semis, and then we beat Bethlehem Academy, who I think was 4th at the time in the state, and we were 6th. So that was a little bit of an upset. And so it's different having the underdog role, whereas this year now, we didn't. And so a lot of similarities, a lot of differences.
And you look at this year's team in particular, you mentioned managing the injury to Hope Erickson there. In other ways than that, how has this team grown since you started your formal practices in August to this point?
Yeah, well, it's really cool because two of the things that Sophie and Mackenzie had on their team that were really kind of difficult to replace was their just energy that they brought, right? Just their energy and their leadership. Sometimes when you have seniors, they are able to lead in just more ways than one, right? Girls are very uncomfortable being vocal leaders. Well, Sophie McKenzie did a great job. A lot of times you'll get seniors that are leaders by example because they just work so hard and they're like, guys, let's go. We're making this senior year the greatest season we've ever had and stuff. And Kenzie and Sophie did do that. Well, with no seniors this year and a lot of girls returning, some of the girls really had to step up and become kind of the team leaders. And, certainly Sahara and Sajal and Kinley kind of are three girls that had a lot of individual success last year, certainly embraced that role. But then other girls like the Kaylee Ingvalsons and the Lydia Botlins, whose roles have improved and just gotten bigger. They gained a lot of their leadership roles have improved and just just the confidence in them. You can see they understand now that more is expected of them, but they're able to do it. They're able to get the big swings and the big passes and more attention is on them, but they're coming through right now.
And when you talk about developing leadership, is that something that happens organically? Is that a role that kids need to accept? How does that happen? Because I'd imagine it's easier said than done.
Well, it is. One of the famous sports quotes is, leaders are made, not born, and I'm a firm believer that if you just instill confidence in kids, especially girls, you can make them believe that they can do things. And the tricky thing about a coach is you have to make kids believe that they're great, right? But the ultimate challenge is to make kids believe that they're better than they actually are, right? And I think if a coach can figure out how to make kids believe that they're actually better than they are, that's when greatness happens. And so we talk a lot about team stuff. We talk a lot about understanding that your success is not as great as the team's success. And if you are feeling poorly or you're playing poorly, you have to shake it off, right? Because you're one person on a team. We have other kids that are going to have your back. And Saturday, Kinley and Sajal didn't play their greatest games of the year. And that's okay, because then we had Hope Erickson, Tyler Wentold and Kaylee Ingvalson played unbelievable. And so, and Sajal and Kinley were still both good, right? But when you're used to just this elite level that they both play at, Fillmore Central had a triple block up all the time on them and made things a little bit more challenging. You know what? It was like, that's okay. We got these other kids that are going to still come through. And so the confidence level that our kids got from playing really, really a great game on Saturday is just going to be immeasurable going up to the state tournament.
And one match I'll ask you about in the postseason is your sectional semifinal against Alden Conger. I believe you dropped the first set. You ended up winning that one in 5. You touched on the adversity that you dealt with and the growing this team that has done. Did that come to fruition in that sectional semifinal?
Without question. And looking back now, when we talked to the kids on Saturday about this, I thought Alden Conger played better against us than potentially Wanamingo did against Fillmore Central in their semifinal. So Alden had us up against the wall. They played phenomenal. Best match I'd seen them play. They played Spring Grove in the round of 8 earlier on Tuesday and beat them in 5. But Alden made a ton of hitting errors and a ton of serving errors. And as the match progressed, their hitters started tipping and rolling shots and finding open areas on the Spring Grove team because they had made so many hitting errors. And so Thursday, we were really prepared to pick up a lot of off-speed stuff. Well, Alden came out guns a-blazing, kept balls in bounds, ripping balls. Their senior libero was phenomenal. Just digging everything. And speaking with their coach and stuff, she thought they played just unbelievable, right? And she was so happy with how they had played compared to how they had played against Spring Grove. And anytime you go to a 5th set, right? And the 4th set, we were ahead and they went on a major run and we ended up losing, I think, like 25-18, 25-19, something like that. So it wasn't even like a 25-23 game. And so it was great though, seeing the girls in the huddle. And we never talked really about returning to the state tournament this year. It was kind of an unspoken goal, obviously, after getting there last year. But you could just see the girls, there was something in them. There was no wavering in their eyes. There was no poor body language. You could just see that they're like, all right, let's get after it, right? And we ended up winning like 15-8, 15-9 or something in the 5th set, kind of dominated. And that really led us into the match on Saturday. And Fillmore played great against Wanamingo. I think the first set they won 25-6. It was just outrageous. And then they just, finished the match in 4 and really played well. And I think most neutral observers probably would have said, oof, Mabel was in a lot of trouble Saturday. And geez, and let me come on and see you. I never dreamed that was going to happen, Darren, in the section finals against the 6th, 7th ranked team in state.
And I know you had the tough competition here in section number 1. You've traveled to a lot of tournaments and faced some really good competition. Do you feel you're tournament tested and tournament ready going up to St. Paul this week?
Yeah, I do. Minnesota seed the top 5 teams in their classes for volleyball, and we ended up getting the 3 seed, which whatever. Some of people are a little surprised we didn't get the 2 seed, or after Minnesota lost to RTR on Saturday that we didn't get the 1 seed. But who cares? Heck, we're back to the underdog role, Darren. We love it. We're the 3 seed now. We're not supposed to win. So our first team we play is Badger Greenbush Middle River. And it's weird because 6 of the 8 teams that made it to state last year are back. And so for whatever reason, 6 of the 8 are back. And so Badger Greenbush is the team that played up at the state tournament last year. So we certainly aren't going to catch anybody by surprise because it's their first experience, And so they're a good team. They run a 5-1 offense. They're a little bit smaller in the middle than they were last year. They had 2 really, really elite middle hitters for a high school team. And then the coach's daughter was a setter last year, and she was all state. She was very good. And so they graduated heavy, but like most strong programs, you don't really have a bad season or a down season. And so here they are back to the state tournament. And so we're trying to get a little bit of scouting report on them and stuff. But, we talk about this all the time in sports, and in volleyball, we'll talk about, it matters more what we do when we have the ball than when our opponent has the ball. And in football, basketball, whatever, every sport is that way. And state tournament is certainly that way. It's a lot like our section tournament this past week, where it's just a quick turnaround. Boom, 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 boom. So we're going to try and be really well prepared for Badger on Thursday. And then, I'll be staying up late this week and making scouting reports on our potential opponents. But I don't want our kids, worrying about any of that stuff. The only thing they're worried about right now is Badger Greenbush. And then I'll whip out our scouting report on the teams based on who we play on Friday and Saturday. But we're not going to start talking about, if we play New Life Academy or Mayor Lutheran or RTR, this is what they have. I just want them solely focused on Badger Greenbush. And then obviously we'll have a banquet and we'll practice and go to escape room and go eat a lot and, just take in the Twin Cities, because we are there for the state volleyball tournament, but it is going to be an unbelievable experience. And the support we got last year from Southeast Minnesota was just unbelievable. And our booster club and donations and stuff is just, it's so special playing and coaching in a small town and small school. And, no place I'd rather be than Mabel-Canton, man.
And final question for you: with so many of your young women having experience at a state tournament already, does that maybe add to a little bit of a comfort level? Or when the first serve happens on Thursday night, it's just like, this is state, let's get the butterflies out of the way and play?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of anxiety, but, after going last year, for 20 years, I was the only one really at that time that could say, oh my gosh, guys, it's so fun. It's so cool. We get to do this and we get to do that and we get to do this. And so last year we went in just kind of like with that deer in headlights look, right? And we played really well, right? But it was still like, oh my gosh, this is new. And I know you were talking about this, but until you actually do it, you don't really understand what it feels like. But now with our kids, we had our team meeting yesterday on Sunday to order our tickets and for the banquet and other things. The girls just started flooding back with the stories from last year. And remember when we did this, remember when we did this. And, it'll be very similar. There'll be some differences, but the times are the same. The banquet is the same. Our practices are the same. And so it's not going to be as much of the unknown, and so it's hard to predict how we're going to play, but I would hope we're going to come out and play really well that first match, Darren. But if not, we'll make adjustments and we'll fly. And if we lose the first set or the second set, we're just going to keep playing until hopefully we win 3.
All right, Coach, congratulations on another trip to St. Paul coming up this week. And here's hoping you have as much success as possible up at the XL Energy Center. Best of luck to you this week.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
Lonnie Morken, head coach of the Mabel-Canton Cougars, 4th trip to state in school history, 2nd straight trip to St. Paul for Mabel-Canton. The Caledonia Warriors are heading back to the state volleyball tournament for the first time since 2016. Scott Koepke, head coach of the Warriors, taking the time to preview the state tournament for us. And, Coach, what's made this a successful and a special group?
I think there's a lot of kids in this group that have gotten out of bed at 5:15, 5:30 in the morning for years and put a lot of time in. And I think that it's neat to see that they get to do something really special to reward them for all that hard work, because it's been a lot. So I'm really, really super happy for them.
Excellent sectional play for your team. The last two games, the sectional semifinal in Zumbrota Mazeppa went to 5, and then Saturday in the sectional final, you were down 2-0, but came back and won 3 straight against Cannon Falls. What got it done in those 5-setters in postseason?
Yeah, just a huge congrats again to Zumbrota and Cannon Falls, and Chatfield too. Three of those teams are ranked in the top 10 in the state, and the one that wasn't ranked, was preseason number 1 before Madison got hurt. So, we knew it was going to be a gauntlet going in there. It was just going to be a scrap, and we figured it was going to be 2 5-setters. We've worked a lot on Darren on the process this year. How to handle ourselves, how to prepare, how to stay positive. And I think in the end, that really was what might have, given us an edge, because we were down 2 match points to Zumbrota. And, we fought back in there. And then, we although we didn't start out, like we maybe would have wanted to against Cannon Falls, the girls never got really, we call it green, yellow, and red. They never got into the red. They were struggling, but they were hanging in there. And I think that once we got a few things fixed up a little bit and going our way, then we started to kind of get some flow going. But I think had we gone in either of those matches, down into that red zone where it's tough to get out, I don't think we would have made it out of either one of them.
You talk about the process and keeping that positive mindset. That's from the outside looking in, that's easier said than done. What do you credit that to? How do your kids keep that positive mindset even when things might not be going your way in the moment?
Well, I think it starts before the season starts. I guess for any coaches out there that are tuning into this, I would say that it's probably about 85% the process and about 15% the volleyball. We were working on it before the season started even, and each of the kids had a grit board, and they had daily goal setting and reminders. They'd carry cards around in their backpack or their pocket, with positive statements, and we knew going into this was going to be very difficult. And the whole idea, Darren, is to understand that you're going to get low. There's going to be tough spots. There is in athletics, you're just going to have moments, but just not to get too low and try to get yourself back out of those spots as quickly as you can. And I just applaud our kids for doing a great job of that.
And from a schedule perspective, you mentioned the gauntlet that Section 1 has been. I know you've been to tournaments up at Lakeville North, Apple Valley, the volleyball showcase as well. From a scheduling perspective, do you feel the competition that you have faced got you ready for the moments last week and has gotten you ready for this state tournament?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Some of the balls that the Zumbrota kids would hit were pretty impressive. They got some kids that can just gas the ball, and Cannon Falls as well. And Madison is just a crazy athlete who can really, really bring it. And when those kills go down, our girls don't bat an eye. They don't blink. They've seen it before. They've gone against teams with 3 or 4 of those players coming at us. When you play against East Ridge and Champlain Park and some of those teams, it's nonstop. You learn to adapt to it. And I think that we're very comfortable in that environment where we understand when a huge kill goes down the line, we're like, yep, they got one, move on, next serve. And I think that helps us a lot.
Now that you've qualified for state, and it's definitely something worth celebrating, for the first time in 7 years, your program has gotten there. How do you transition from appreciating that accomplishment to getting back to work to be done mode?
Well, as soon as we got in the locker room afterwards, there was there was a little celebration there, and then we talked right away about what goal do we want to set next, and they all to a T, they want to win a state championship, so that's our next goal. And we had the weekend, Saturday night and yesterday was, there's a lot of prep that goes on, but we take time to enjoy it. But today we'll talk about the game, and I have some just neat things to share with the girls, how proud of them we are, and then we'll kind of move on to Concordia Academy and just kind of start the same process that we had going into the section tournament.
You mentioned you got the number 3 seed in Concordia Academy, going to be your first round opponent. What have you been able to come up with about them?
Well, we beat them in the championship of the Apple Valley tournament, so we know them. We're familiar with them. They're familiar with us. They have a strong team. They have a very good outside. They have some capable middles. So it's going to be a match right out of the gate. Minnesota volleyball, Wisconsin volleyball, Iowa volleyball. It's so strong that the state tournament is getting to be less and less where there's any teams that aren't strong. So we'll be ready to go. We think that we can compete well with them, and but like any matchup at the state tournament, you have to play well. And so we'll just keep working on what we're doing. And I think we'll be in the mix.
All right, Coach, congratulations on getting back to the state tournament, and hopefully you can have as successful of a run as possible once you hit the XL Energy Center later this week. We wish you best of luck, and congrats again.
Yep. Thanks, Darren.
Scott Koepke, head coach of the Caledonia Warriors. They're getting ready for the state tournament coming up this week, taking on Concordia Academy in round number 1. Caledonia Warrior football team is back at the state tournament for the first time since 2019. Head coach Carl Fruechte joining us. They got there with a 35-20 win over Dover Iota last Friday night in Winona. And Coach told us last week it was going to be a battle. It was a battle, but your kids ended up prevailing in the end. How'd you get it done?
Yeah, well, first of all, we do want to give credit to Dover Iota and their staff and their fans. Their athletes, great job. I was fortunate enough to go to the Winona State game the next day, and just a lot of people just coming up and just talking about what a great game it was. Two high school teams that really battled, and it was, Darren. And I just, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you win, you probably have made 3 or 4 more plays than your opponent. And I would have said the same thing had we lost. Dover would have made 3 or 4 more plays than we made, and I think that's holds true. Last Friday night, we just made a few more plays than them. I thought our kids played hard. I thought both schools played hard, and it was physical, it was fun, it was intense. There was a lot of class between the young men. I know it's cheesy, Darren, but I think we just made 3 or 4 more plays than Dover Iota that Friday night.
You got off to the good start. We're leading 14-0. They came back and ended up tying the game, but you were able to get that kickoff return right after Dover Iota tied the game. Take us through that kickoff return. What went well for you guys to retake the lead right away?
Well, again, Fisher is very explosive, fast kid. Same with Josh Beardmore, same with Lewis Doyle, same with Owen Deadstead, so we feel confident with any of those guys. And then again, we talk to our kids all the time. You're an athlete when you're on the field. You should want the ball. Even the up guys, you can't be scared. You got to want the ball. So, Fisher attacked the gap that we had called, and our kids did a great job blocking, and Fisher, used his speed and broke to the right, and Lewis Doyle made a nice key block, down the field that was huge. And he's pretty hard young man to catch.
And looking at your run with games of the season, 2 very competitive games against Dover Iota. You had that battle against Lewiston Altura in the second round of the postseason. Do you feel your team is battle tested as you get ready for the state tournament Thursday night?
They got to be, right? You look at Darren, you look at our whatever section you want to call it, and then then everybody goes and plays section football, and look at what Triton's doing. Look at, Cannon Falls is doing. I've said for how long we've got a little mini state here, mini state tournament in our little section. I feel like as a coaching staff, Darren, we've we put our kids through scenarios, we talk them through, and I know it's not always the same as doing it, but you got to work the mental side. And so mentally, our guys have been down 21-0 in their brain, and we've talked about what to do and how to handle it. And the other part, Darren, is you got to throw it on them too. I mean, the point of sport is to get ready for real life. It isn't all peaches and cream, as you and I know. And we're not being doomsday. We just, what happens if this goes on? What do we got to do, and how do we handle it? And I feel we're ready. I mean, Lord knows we're going to have our hands full Thursday night with a great JCC team, and it's the way it should be, Darren.
And obviously, getting to a state tournament is a team's goal any year that they compete. But how do you go from celebrating accomplishing one of those goals to focusing on the work that needs to be done to have success on Thursday night?
Well, you enjoyed for 24 hours, and you talk about the next step, the next ring, on the ladder, and that's what we talk about. And again, we got to treat them like men. They're men now, and they got to get ready. And again, I feel fortunate, Darren. Some coaches will call me and we'll talk, from they're up north or up in the cities, and talk a lot about, do you have an immature team or a mature team? And mature teams can handle that. Immature teams, oh boy, now you're in trouble. Because some young men just don't want to look forward. And I feel like we have a very mature bunch. No matter what happens Thursday, I know their brains are in the right area. And again, if not, it's on them.
How have they grown in that particular matter throughout the course of the season, in your mind?
I think again, you and I have talked about this, Darren. Trust and communication is so important to me. It's important to our staff, and by nature, we're not always trustworthy. And when you're playing a combat sport like football, it takes a while. And I just think we're getting there. We're stepping closer and closer. We've talked about how we feel like going into the tournament, Darren, that we have 2 more steps to take that we can get to if we want to. We feel like we can just get that much better. It's not about hanging on. It's about getting better. And I feel like they're really striving to do that.
And Jackson County Central going to be your opponent on Thursday night. Looking at them on film, what impresses you?
Wow, everything. That's not coach speak. Obviously everybody out there is talking about their quarterback. He's quite the guy. His older brother played football at South Dakota State, and from what we understand, he's now the OC. And they're doing a great job. They're big, physical. They got some really good, tall, lengthy kids. They mostly run a 4-3 on D. Once in a while they'll jump into a 3-4. They're big and physical, Darren. And again, it's a mindset. Again, we've talked to our boys. This is going to be a four-quarter game, and just excited about the opportunity. Right? It's about what high school kid will listen better Thursday and do the things that he's taught, and to have that mental fortitude to keep going.
And obviously, Jackson County Central has made their mark on the football field. I know they're really well known for wrestling out there as well. And based on my outside looking in experience, when you're facing a school that's good at wrestling, they're usually pretty good at tackling. Is that the case with this group?
Yeah. You see, guys coming downhill, making good tackles. They definitely know how to wrap and get you down to the ground. And obviously our guys are going to have to, at the point of contact, explode into them, not let them just take shots at them, and make sure they're using their stiff arms and all their moves. And you're exactly right, Darren.
All right, Coach, congrats on getting to the state tournament, but now you're hungry for more. You want to take that next step, and here's hoping you can do that Thursday night to keep your kids healthy. We wish you best of luck.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Darren.
Carl Fruechte, head coach of the Caledonia Warriors. For the second straight year, the Fillmore Central Falcon football team is heading to the state tournament. They did so by winning the sectional final last Friday night against Kenyon Wanamingo. Head coach Chris Mensink joining us, and looking at the stats from last week's game. Coach, got to start on the defensive side of the ball. Held them to 137 yards total offense, forced 4 turnovers, pitched a shutout. Can't ask for too much better than that in a sectional final, can you?
No, we've talked about this all season long, right? The turnover ratio and defense, those are things that you definitely need to win on those areas to win ball games. And we told our kids at halftime they had 0 and said if they don't score, they can't win. So like you said, for our defense and our defensive staff to come up with a scheme that they did and hold a team like that wants to run the ball to 137 total yards and all of that on the rushing side of it, I think they had -1 passing. What a tremendous effort by our kids and coaches. So, and out of that 137, I think the first drive, they burned up almost the entire first quarter, and probably 70 of those yards were on that first drive. And that's always interesting because you scheme against them the way you think things are going to go and what they're going to do. And they came out and were doing some things that they hadn't shown us and done in the past. So, but to get that stop, at the end of the quarter and then turn around on the next play and score in one play, what a tribute to our kids and their mental toughness.
Getting off to the early lead on the scoreboard, how big is that against an opponent that wants to do what Wanamingo wants to do?
Yeah, that's what we preach to our kids, right? This is a team we have to get up on early. If we can get up by a few scores, it's tough for a team like that wants to control the clock and score a lot of points and come back. So that was huge for our kids. To get that early lead, and take that 6-0 lead into the second quarter.
And against a team like that, how big is not giving up big plays in the running game?
Yeah, that's huge. So and allowing them to burn some clock, especially when you have that lead, if we can keep, I don't know how many plays that first drive was, but probably 15, 16, 17, something like that. It keeps our offense off the field, but at the same time, when you have a lead, the clock is your enemy as well. So, not giving up the big plays. I think that's been a strength and an attribute of our defense all year long. We haven't given up, those big explosive plays.
Your running game, on the other hand, showed some pretty good consistency at 204 yards on 31 attempts, led by those big plays from Jace Keeney. What made your running game work in an efficient manner last week?
Well, I think it's just, our offensive line continues to get better every week and they continue to gel. And when you have a talent like Jace Keeney, anytime he touches the ball, he can score with it. So he just needs a little bit of a seam. If you look at the film on his touchdowns that he scored in that ball game, he did them 2 different ways. One he was carrying 3 people with him into the end zone, and the other one he was out in the open making some good moves and making people miss. So to have our athletes out in space is definitely an advantage for us, for sure, especially on turf.
You went to state last year. You've repeated the task again this year. What do you credit that to? This team obviously didn't rest on any laurels from last year. They got back to state and they're hungry for more now. What do you credit that to?
Well, I think that I credit it to they got a taste of that and they saw exactly what it takes to accomplish that. And they didn't, like you say, rest on their laurels. They remember that feeling at US Bank when they lost by 1 point and they definitely want to rectify that. But last year it was a little different team, right? We hadn't been there and this team has. And had a target on their back. So the way that our kids have approached the game, approached the offseason, and approached the season with a little bit of a target on their back, I'm very proud of how they've approached it and done it the right way and continue to take things 1 week and one opponent at a time.
How has this team gotten better since week number 1?
Well, I think it starts up front, right? I think our offensive and defensive lines have gotten a lot better. We knew we were going to have skill guys on the outside and the back end of our defense. We were going to have some speed, and that's something that that we work hard on. Not necessarily, we can coach it, right? The kids work hard at it, but having speed, I think that's a huge attribute to us. But I think we've gotten better, definitely up front, all year long, each and every game.
You head to Jordan Friday night. You take on a Springfield team. What have you been able to come up with from a knowledge perspective on them?
Yeah, well, Springfield's is a team that's been there too. They've got some nice history. They lost to Minnesota as well in the finals last year, so they were there last year as well, and they're going to be hungry too. Looking at them on film, it's a lot different team than we faced last week in a Wanamingo who wants to pound the ball. Not that they don't run the ball, but they've got some speed and they like to spread you out as well. I think their quarterback has something like 45 touchdown passes on the year. They run some jet. They run a lot of different things. They run stuff a little bit different than us, but it's going to be a fun and exciting challenge for our kids.
You're going into the same setting that you went into in the first round at Jordan last year. Does that maybe help from a comfort perspective at least a little bit?
I think so. I think, having some familiarity with your surroundings and where we're going and then going through that same process and schedule. In fact, our game's a 5:30 start, which it was last year. And I think ours is the only section or quarterfinal game that's at 5:30. So having that familiarity, I think definitely will be an advantage for our kids.
All right, Coach, as I keep telling you every week, let's keep having these conversations. Keep your guys healthy Friday night, and we wish you best of luck. And hopefully we're previewing a semifinal game next week. Best of luck to you.
Appreciate it as always. Thanks, Darren.
Chris Mensink, head coach of the Fillmore Central Falcons. It's Fillmore Central and Springfield in the quarterfinals of the state playoff Friday night at Jordan at 5:30. This MFL MarMac Coach Conversation brought to you by Birdnow Chevrolet, Meyer Auto Service, and Havlicek Trucking. Dan Anderson, head coach of the MFL MarMac Bulldogs, joining us for the first time in school history. They've made it to the semifinals after last week's win over Iowa City Regina in the quarterfinals. Coach, how'd you guys get it done?
We won up front. The guys up front, our linemen, controlled the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively. We were able to get some pressure on Dumont from the quarterback from Regina. And we were able to do it with 4-man pressure, which was great because, we thought maybe we'd have to blitz all the time, and that puts your DBs in a bind sometimes if you're not getting home. But we were able to run some zone coverage and still get enough pressure to make him get rid of the ball quick. And frankly, I was a little surprised we didn't see more screens, but they had to cut down their playbook because when we did blitz, we were getting home pretty quick. And so we mixed it up. Offensive line, like I said, offensive line and defensive line, I thought dominated up front, and our backs ran extremely hard. We made some adjustments to a few things that we weren't expecting, and that got the game, got our running game going, I guess, there in the second quarter.
How motivated was this team to make MFL MarMac history last Friday night?
Well, they were very motivated. It was great to those kids to finally get there and to get to the dome and get over this obstacle because, we've obviously everybody knows we've gotten to the quarterfinals 5 straight years. And, I don't know how much more I could take not getting to the semis, but it sure felt good to get that monkey off your back, and the kids, the same way. A lot of these seniors have been playing, not only on the team, but actually been starting or playing a lot since they've been freshmen and sophomores. So they've been part of these losses in the quarterfinals. And so, that's a lot of years of pain and motivation to get them to the next level. And so they worked extremely hard in the off season, lifting weights and preparing themselves for this moment. And they were able to shine on Friday night.
What's it like putting together a practice plan after daylight savings time goes back to standard time, and you got to make a few adjustments because the sun goes down earlier?
Yeah, well, we'll practice on our game field and turn the lights on, but practices will be a little shorter. At this point, you are who you are. You're not gonna add 100 new things and we're not gonna beat anybody in the dome with surprises. We're gonna beat them with execution of what we do well. And so just fine-tuning the things we do, fixing a few little things that maybe didn't go quite right on Friday night, and just running those things better, looking for advantages if there are any, with our next opponent, Underwood. And, we never skip out on conditioning on Tuesdays and tackling drills. So that's stuff that we always do, no matter if we have a 2-hour practice or a 3-hour practice.
From a conditioning standpoint, it's warm in the Unidome, obviously, a warmer environment than what you've played in probably since the middle of September. Is there any way to get your guys ready for that?
Not really, other than just make sure they understand that it's going to be hot. They have to hydrate a lot, drink plenty of fluids leading up to that game. And, if you're able to, if you've got some depth, make sure that those guys that are your number 2s are getting quality reps this week in practice so that they can get out there and give those guys a break. Also offensively, different personnel groupings, maybe a way to get our tight end, Cade McElwain, off the field for a few snaps, maybe having like a 3-receiver set or something. And because he plays both ways. And so we found ways to try to get a few of these guys off the field, maybe a few plays to catch their breath. But the fact is, if you're a 2-way starter, you better have some, some stamina because, you're going to be playing a lot on Friday night. I don't have a lot of sympathy for guys saying that I'm tired. So these guys, we work really hard in practice all year long. We still condition, 2 to 3 times a practice on Tuesday nights, tough Tuesdays we call them. And the guys kind of relish that, to be honest with you. I asked them last week, I said, do you want to skip out on the conditioner? And they said, heck no, that's what's got us here. So I'm not too worried about that. They're going to be hot. They're going to, be gassed a little bit. But hey, when you get to this point, there'll be a lot of adrenaline pumping. And I'm sure that those guys from Underwood will be gassed too.
And what do you know about Underwood? What have you liked about them on film?
Well, they've got some similarities to Regina offensively. They're a spread team, but they run the ball really well. They're the highest scoring offense in the state of Iowa in Class 1A football. And defensively, they hold teams to 5.5 points per game. So statistically, they're the best team in the state of Iowa, but statistics don't say everything. Heart says a lot. Their quarterback's got 2,300 yards and 29 touchdowns. He's only a sophomore. He's already committed to Iowa to be a pitcher. They've got 2 really good receivers, this Ravelin and Boothby, who are multi-year starters. And they've got 40 some catches and 15 touchdowns, one of them. And another one's got, I think, 35 catches and 7 touchdowns. So, they've got some outstanding receivers. They've got a running back that's got 1,300 yards. So, they've got a lot of similarities scheme-wise to Regina, but the fact is these guys can really pound the ball at you too. They got 195-pound running back, like I said, 1,300 yards. So, they're balanced. They're more balanced probably than Regina was. And their defense is top-notch. There's only one team in the state of Iowa that has more tackles for loss and sacks than us, and that's Underwood. So, they bring the pressure just like we do. So, schematically, defensively, we have a lot of similarities. We're very aggressive. We're an odd front, and we're not afraid to go into some man coverage and bring some heat. They do the same thing. They've seen a lot of spread teams. They haven't seen many teams like us out in Western Iowa. That are physical, that have 2 or 3 backs in the backfield a lot of the time. So, it'll be a little bit different for them. We've seen some spread teams, so we think we'll be prepared for what we see.
Great, Coach. Hopefully this ride can continue at least one more week. Keep kids healthy. Enjoy the Dome on Friday afternoon. Best of luck to you. And as always, this time of year, let's have another conversation next week.
I sure hope so. Thanks, Darren.
Dan Anderson, head coach of the MFL MarMac Bulldogs, brought to you by Birdnow Chevrolet, Havlicek Trucking, and Meyer Auto Service. Thank you to our guest on the program this morning, the performers, and Sarah Bieber, the musical director for the Waukon High School musical Little Shop of Horrors, that will take place at the high school auditorium, 7 o'clock tonight, 7 o'clock Friday night, and 7 o'clock on Saturday night. Also, I want to thank Libby Phillips and Gabe Heiner for joining us to talk about SpongeBob the Musical. That will take place Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights at 7:30, and then 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. A pre-matinee lunch show will take place. The National Honor Society putting that on for the matinee show at 1:30 on Saturday. And we want to thank the coaches that joined us on the show. Mabel-Canton volleyball coach Lonnie Morken, Scott Koepke, the head volleyball coach at Caledonia, head football coach Carl Fruechte for Caledonia, Fillmore Central football coach Chris Mensink, and MFL MarMac football coach Dan Anderson. We wish everybody, all of our young people, whether they're performing on stage this weekend, performing in an athletic competition, we wish each and every one of them good luck as they show off their talent here this weekend. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We realize you can't always be near a radio or near a streaming device at 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning, but we want the ability to talk to these interesting people and have these interesting people be heard on your schedule. Like today, just go 11-9 Our Town program. If you're out gallivanting on YouTube or searching on YouTube or any other adjective of your choice on YouTube, that's a great way to catch up with the show. We also put these links up on all of our LA Communication radio station Facebook pages as well. It's the best way we can keep in touch with you right here through our community, through our LA Communications radio station. So a thank you to our guest. A thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. And most importantly, we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching our town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.